Hello and a very warm welcome to a brand new edition of World Panorama with me, Frank Pereira, on Rajya Sabha television. Over the next half an hour, we'll bring you a roundup of all the significant events to have happened around the world this week. But first, a look at the headlines. Hillary Clinton puts Donald Trump on the defensive at the first US presidential debate. Political pundits say Clinton won Monday night's contest. Showdown was most watched presidential debate ever. First veto override of Barack Obama's presidency. US Congress rejects president's veto of the Saudi 9/11 lawsuits bill. Bill allows families of 9/11 victims to sue the kingdom. First armed conflict, or rather last armed conflict in Latin America finally comes to an end. Colombian government and FARC rebels sign historic agreement. Deal ends decades-old war that killed around 250,000 people. Last surviving link to Israel's founding fathers dies at 93. Former Israeli Prime Minister and elder statesman passes away in Tel Aviv. World leaders pay tributes to the 1994 Nobel Peace Prize winner. Well, it was the most watched presidential debate in history, which saw flamboyant Donald Trump forced on the defensive by Democratic rival Hillary Clinton for much of the 90-minute showdown at Hofstra University. But with two more debates still to go and looking at the unpredictable nature of the 2016 campaign so far, pundits say Trump can still make a comeback ahead of the 8th November election. Here's more.
I think Donald just criticized me for preparing for this debate. And yes, I did. And you know what else I prepared for? I prepared to be president. And I think that's a good thing.
One of the hotly contested moments of the first of the three US presidential television debates. The debate, watched by a record 84 million Americans at home, saw not only arguments on various policy issues, but was full of personal attacks as well.
She doesn't have the look. She doesn't have the stamina. I said she doesn't have the stamina. And I don't believe she does have the stamina. To be president of this country, you need tremendous stamina.
One of the worst things he said was about a woman in a beauty contest. He called this woman Miss Piggy. Then he called her Miss Housekeeping because she was Latina.
A CNN poll taken after the debate found that 62% of the voters who had watched the head-to-head thought that Democratic Hillary Clinton came out on top, with just 27% giving it to Republican Donald Trump.
It was a clear win for Hillary Clinton, or perhaps a clear loss for Donald Trump may be the best way to put it. With the truth, even arguing with the moderator when the moderator caught him on a falsehood that he was always against going into Iraq. He didn't have any grasp of policy or details. He showed himself to have a very thin temperament.
Worse for Donald Trump, the billionaire businessman was being seen as a bad loser after he accused moderator Lester Holt of being tougher on him and complained that his microphone was terrible and crackled, and that his volume was lower than Hillary's microphone.
I was a little bit upset that the microphone in the room wasn't working properly.
What do you mean?
The microphone in the room wasn't working.
Despite being much talked about all over the world, most of the Americans expressed discontent with the debate, saying that there was less emphasis on policy issues.
Again, some of their behavior is a bit childish, maybe unfounded, and I think they focus on minutia rather than really getting to answers on the key facts that we need to address.
The debate with 84 million viewers fell short of the 100 million viewers some had predicted, but broke the record of 80.6 million viewers who had tuned in for the 1980 presidential debate between Jimmy Carter and Ronald Reagan. This debate may have knocked Donald Trump sideways, but not out of the race for the White House. Experts say the unpredictable nature of 2016 race leaves much to be decided, with 2 more debates in October. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Well, joining me for a chat this week to talk about this is Mr. K.P.Nayar, consulting editor of The Telegraph. Welcome, Mr. Nayar, and thank you for joining me on the program. You know, people have read this debate and said that Hillary Clinton was the clear winner as far as the first debate is concerned. How did you read the debate? I know you watched the debate thoroughly and you're keeping a close eye on everything that happened. What is your assessment?
Hillary definitely won the debate hands down. But this is a very unusual American presidential election. So the debate was no different. The debate was also very unusual and unconventional. A couple of points, Frank, I want to make about the debate. First of all, the biggest beneficiary of the debate was neither Hillary Clinton nor Donald Trump, the presidential candidates, but somebody called Rosie O'Donnell, TV comedian and television host. You see, before the debate, hardly anyone knew about her and her career was sagging. Now she is a household name because Donald Trump brought her into the debate. 10 years ago, he had a fight with her, with Rosie O'Donnell. What she did was she combed her hair like Trump, mimicked him, and on television called him a snake oil salesman, you know. So Trump has never forgiven her for that. At that time itself, he attacked her for being obese, which is never done in the United States. It's politically incorrect to call anybody fat and refer to physical attributes. Strangely, Trump brought her into the debate. Second, he took great pride before the debate in not having prepared for it. All the candidates throughout, since the debate, first ever television debate, presidential debate by Kennedy and Nixon, candidates have prepared for the debate. You see, Trump got away during the Republican primaries by hurling insults at his rivals and getting away with it and all that. So he said he didn't prepare, but Hillary prepared. Hillary prepared for days. So she got away with it. That's why she was the winner. And she put Trump on the defensive. All the allegations she made, he didn't defend himself properly. That's because he didn't have preparation on taxes, for example. The impression sticks. Hillary's accusation that he probably didn't pay income tax for years.
Yes.
Because he hasn't released his tax returns, you see. So it's all this contributed to Hillary being a clear winner. The other thing is, maybe he will learn from it, you know. See, presidential debates are usually presidential, civil. But he kept interrupting her. He kept saying, wrong, wrong. You know, in 2000, the first time Hillary contested for the Senate, he had a Republican opponent called Rick Lazio. He invaded her space. You know, it was a town hall type debate. He walked into her side of the stage. One of the reasons why Rick Lazio lost the election was because the voters felt that he was not being civil. So I think his interruptions, his being uncivil to a woman rival candidate, I think it will cost him quite a bit.
Do you think that Trump has learned from his mistakes, and do you see, more constructive debate in the next 2 debates to come?
Doesn't think so. Yesterday he said that the debate was rigged. I mean, you showed that clip about the microphone, but he is attacking the anchor. He is a sore loser. He is never lost in his life. He's always had his way in business or in even the primaries. Nobody thought he would get this far, but he's got away with it. So he doesn't know how to lose gracefully, I think. But if he hasn't learned from his mistakes and if he doesn't improve, I think it may cost him the election. Because debates are, 84 million people watch this time. Debates are closely watched. Father Bush, George H.W. Bush, one of the reasons he lost to Hillary Clinton was during the debate he looked at the watch, And people thought that, this man is impatient. He doesn't have the patience to listen to a rival. Also, he said, George H.W. Bush said in one of the debates, Bill Clinton, when he contested that time, was a state politician. He has never been a senator. He has never been a congressman. He was new to Washington. So George H.W. Bush said that even my dog knows more about foreign policy than my opponent, Bill Clinton.
Yes.
One of the reasons why he lost the debate was that. So, for Trump's sake, let us hope that he has learned the lessons. But to my mind, it is unlikely.
You mentioned it also, and we mentioned it in our report. 84 million people watched the debate on television, most watched presidential debate ever. But it was criticized by the general public because they said that it lacked substance.
Well, it lacked substance because Trump didn't offer any details of his policies. He didn't prepare, as I said. He came like he was making a campaign speech. And it takes two hands to clap. So in the absence of any policy formulations and all that, Hillary had the field to make personal accusations because that was the atmosphere, that was the fertile ground that this debate offered. And she got away with the accusations on many levels, For instance, Hillary was very clever. Donald Trump often, he has not paid the workers who did jobs for him in his various companies. So Hillary invited one of those persons who had not been paid. He used to put linoleum in his clubs on the table and all that. Ordinary, small businessman. He invited him, So Hillary not only prepared herself, she prepared the atmosphere also, getting people like that. Then he brought in that Miss Universe, whom Trump called Miss Housekeeping because she was a Latina, and he called her Miss Piggy and all that. Trump fell into the trap, Instead of countering with policy formulations, substantive repartees, every time Hillary made an accusation, he fell into the trap.
And let's not forget, Hillary Clinton is a seasoned politician and is experienced in all these things.
Yeah.
We'll have to leave it at that.
But let me not overstate this, Trump got this far. Nobody expected him, Even if he does badly at the debate, one shouldn't be surprised if he becomes president.
Indeed. All right. We'll have to leave it at that, Mr. Nayar. Thank you so much for joining us on the program and putting things into perspective for us. Well, moving on. Now, Colombia's government and rebel leaders formally signed a historic peace deal on Monday in the port city of Cartagena to end a decades-old war that killed around 250,000 people. After 4 years of intense negotiations, Colombian President Juan Manuel Santos signed the peace accord with the leader of the Revolutionary Armed Forces of Colombia, Rodrigo Londono Echeverri, also known as Timoshenko. Here's a report. Conflict that lasted over 5 decades. An estimated 250,000 people killed, 5 million displaced. These staggering figures are now consigned to history as the Colombian government buried the hatchet with its longtime nemesis, the Marxist Revolutionary Armed Forces of Colombia rebel group, better known by its Spanish acronym FARC.
God bless Colombia. The war is over. We are beginning to construct peace.
In a symbolic gesture, the pens used to sign the historic peace deal years in the making were made from recycled bullets once used in the conflict. An inscription on the side of the pens read, "Bullets wrote our past, education our future." The two sides, joined by leaders from the United States, Mexico, El Salvador, Uruguay, Cuba and the United Nations, came together on Monday in the coastal colonial city of Cartagena to sign the accord.
Colombians, the horrible night is over. The shadow of a horrible night of violence which has covered us for over a half century is over. The horrible night is over and the day comes with many promises. Today we invite everyone, youth, adults, in cities and countryside, the skeptical and the enthusiasts, everyone to open arms, eyes and minds to welcome the new day. Let us open our hearts to the new sunrise.
The rebels voted unanimously to approve a deal that was finalized in August to end the 52-year-old conflict, Latin America's longest running. It still needs to be ratified by voters who will consider the agreement in a single-issue referendum on October 2nd. The treaty, signed by President Juan Manuel Santos and FARC leader Rodrigo Londono, better known as Timochenko, requires rebels to give up their weapons and participate in a transitional justice process toward reintegration. If and when the deal is approved by the electorate, the FARC will cease to be a rebel group and instead enter into politics as a left-wing party.
The 10th National Guerrilla Conference of the FARC-EP unanimously ratified the Havana peace agreements and has mandated the creation of the new party as a political movement, which configures the definitive passing of the clandestine war and armed struggle to an open and legal fight towards an expansion of democracy. May nobody doubt that we will carry our politics without guns. We will prepare to disarm our hearts and minds.
The treaty grants the FARC 10 political seats, but it remains to be seen whether the rebel group founded on Marxist ideologies of class struggle can effectively transition into a political platform. While the deal symbolizes a chance for future generations to come of age in peace, the deal also signals a new chapter for the region. The longest-running war in the Americas will finally be over, bringing an end to armed political conflict in Latin America. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha Television. Well, it's time for a short break now, but still to come. Dozens of world leaders gathered in Israel to pay tributes to Shimon Peres, one of the country's founding fathers who died on Wednesday, aged 93. We'll look back at his life on the other side. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Welcome back. You're watching Rajya Sabha Television. Well, Shimon Peres, who led Israel as Prime Minister and President in an enduring 6-decade-long political career built on promoting peace between Arabs and Jews, died on Wednesday. Peres had been treated at the Sheba Medical Center near Tel Aviv since September 13th after complaining about feeling weak. Doctors said that his condition had drastically deteriorated after suffering from brain damage, and Perez's family was summoned on Tuesday to a bedside vigil. Here's a detailed report. Former Israeli Prime Minister and President Shimon Peres died in Tel Aviv on Wednesday, aged 93. Peres was hospitalized following a stroke 2 weeks ago and had made some progress before a sudden deterioration in his condition on Tuesday. Israel convened a special cabinet meeting to mourn the death of Peres. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and his ministers held a minute of silence in memory of the elder statesman. And despite the many decades of rivalry with Peres, Netanyahu praised the joint winner of the 1994 Nobel Peace Prize as a visionary.
There were many things we agreed upon, and the number grew as years passed. But we had disagreements, a natural part of democratic life. Even in those cases, the respect I had for Shimon was not impacted in any way. On the contrary, as time passed, we drew closer. I appreciated him. I loved him.
World leaders also condoled the death of the Israeli statesman. US President Barack Obama praised Peres, saying, "A light has gone out, but the hope he gives us will burn forever." Former US President Bill Clinton described Peres as brilliant, saying his life was a blessing to all who strive for peace.
He dedicated his life to the cause of an Israel that would be safe and secure, democratic and free, and the homeland of the Jewish people. And he never lost that vision. And so many times when I was traveling over there so frequently to meet with the Prime Minister, he would express a frustration, frankly, with the pace and with the lack of the seizure of opportunities, but he always felt restrained and necessarily respectful of the incumbent prime minister, having been a prime minister himself. So he never inserted himself inappropriately in the dialogue. But I can tell you he was impatient for peace for his country and impatient for the lost, grabbed opportunities that were passing by.
It is with great sadness that we learned that Shimon Peres passed away. The Israeli people lost a father, a grandfather of the Israeli nation. The world lost a man who fought for peace and for respect. Shimon Peres, who together with Yitzhak Rabin and Yasser Arafat won the Nobel Peace Prize, was a man who during his whole political life was a man who represented an idea, the idea of peace and cooperation.
Peres was part of almost every major development in Israel since the country's founding in 1948. In a career spanning nearly 70 years, he served in a dozen cabinets and was twice a Labour Prime Minister. He shared the 1994 Nobel Peace Prize with the late former Prime Minister Yitzhak Rabin and late Palestinian leader Yasser Arafat for reaching an interim peace deal in 1993, which never turned into a lasting treaty. Rabin was assassinated in 1995 by an Israeli ultra-nationalist who opposed the interim accords, and it was Peres who took over as Prime Minister after Rabin's death. Peres is widely seen as having gained nuclear capabilities for Israel by procuring the secret Dimona reactor from France while Defense Ministry Director General in the 1950s. And as Defense Minister, oversaw the 1976 Israeli rescue of hijacked Israelis at Entebbe Airport in Uganda. He held the largely ceremonial post of president from 2007 to 2014.
Shimon Peres was there when the country was founded. With his 10 fingers, he built this country. He built our security. He built our economy. He built our values. While we had profound differences on the political views, I loved Shimon Peres. And as Minister of Education, we met a lot, and he was passionate about the future of Israeli children. He cared about every child in Israel.
Peres's funeral took place on Friday at the Mount Herzl Cemetery in the section dedicated to great leaders of the nation. US President Barack Obama, French President François Hollande and Britain's Prince Charles were among those in attendance. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha Television. Meanwhile, much else has unfolded around the world this week. Here's a roundup of the other international news of the week in Globe Watch.
International prosecutors on Wednesday said the Malaysian Airlines flight MH17 was downed over eastern Ukraine in 2014 by a Buk missile that had come from Russia. They also narrowed down the area it was fired from to a field and territory controlled by Russian-backed rebels. All 298 people on board the Boeing 777 died when it broke apart in mid-air flying from Amsterdam to Kuala Lumpur. Russia said it cannot accept the findings as a final truth since no Russian weapons were taken to Ukraine. Saudi Arabia on Monday announced sudden drastic cuts to salaries and perks for government employees as part of the kingdom's struggle to slash spending at a time of low oil prices. The cuts, unveiled in a series of royal decrees and cabinet statements, was read aloud on state television. The drop in world petroleum prices since 2014 has caused major financial troubles for Saudi. The country ran a budget deficit of nearly $100 billion last year. Congress on Wednesday voted overwhelmingly to override a veto by President Obama for the first time, passing into law a bill that would allow the families of those killed in the September 11, 2001 terrorist attacks to sue Saudi Arabia for any role in the plot. Democrats in large numbers joined the Republicans to deliver a remarkable rebuke to the president. The 97-1 vote in the Senate and the 348-77 vote in the House displayed the enduring power of the September 11 families in Washington and the diminishing influence of the Saudi government. An Indian-American lawyer reportedly facing professional setbacks was killed by police in Houston, Texas on Monday after he began randomly shooting at passers-by on a street. 9 persons were injured in the incident, one of whom seriously. 45-year-old Nathan Desai was dressed in Nazi military apparel and had a rifle and pistol, both legally purchased. The search of his home yielded more weapons. Suicide bombings on Tuesday killed at least 17 people and wounded more than 50 in Shia districts of Iraq's capital Baghdad. 8 people were killed and 29 wounded in the eastern New Baghdad Jadida commercial area when a suicide bomber detonated his explosive vest in a commercial street. Another suicide attack hit a commercial street of Bayan in western Baghdad, killing at least 9 and wounding 22 people. Islamic State claimed responsibility for the attacks.
Well, let's now shift focus and bring you up to speed with all the sports news that you might have missed this week in sports action. England football coach Sam Allardyce lost his job after being caught in an undercover sting explaining how to circumvent player transfer rules. Allardyce's exit came just 67 days into his £3 million a year plus bonuses contract, making him the shortest serving England manager. Gareth Southgate will take charge of the next 4 matches against Malta, Slovenia, Scotland and Spain, while the FA searches for a new manager, with Steve Bruce, Alan Pardew and Eddie Howe also in the running. Celtic claimed their first Champions League Group C point as Pep Guardiola's perfect record in charge of Manchester City was ended with a draw in Glasgow. The hosts led twice in the first half, Moussa Dembele diverting in Eric Sviatchenko's header and Kieran Tierney forcing an own goal by Raheem Sterling. Fernandinho's strike brought City level first time and Sterling showed composure to net the visitors' second. Nolito equalised for the visitors again after Dembele had netted on the turn. World number 1 Novak Djokovic withdrew from next week's China Open in Beijing because of an elbow injury. The Serb, a 6-time champion in Beijing, last played in the US Open final on September 12th when he was beaten by Stan Wawrinka. Djokovic is next scheduled to play at the Shanghai Masters from the 10th of October. Andy Murray, Rafael Nadal and Angelique Kerber are among those scheduled to feature in the combined ATP-WTA event in Beijing. Formula One has closed a loophole that allowed teams to get around rules restricting engine parts without incurring excessive penalties. It was exploited by Mercedes at this year's Belgian Grand Prix. Lewis Hamilton started at the back of the grid despite the team fitting 3 new engines and incurring penalties totaling 55 grid places. From 2017, if more than one part incurs a penalty, only the last can be used at later races without a penalty. Former Australia fast bowler and sports commentator Max Walker died at the age of 68. Walker, who had cancer, played 34 tests between 1972 and 1977, taking 138 wickets at an average of 27.47. Nicknamed Tangles because of his unorthodox bowling style and known for his trademark handlebar moustache, Walker also played in 17 one-day internationals. He made his last international appearance in 1981 and became a successful commentator and author. And finally, automakers unveiled their supercars at the Paris Motor Show on Thursday, boasting an array of high-tech and high-speed concept models, which partly attest to why it is one of the most visited car displays in the world. Car manufacturers did not shy away from putting forward some of their best designs, allowing visitors to get a glimpse of what the future products could look like. The show will be open to the public from October 1st to 16th. I'm going to leave you with these visuals from Paris. See you again next time.